In this screencast, I'm going to walk you through how to use your Pearson eText to maximize your learning in the class in AP1 and in AP2 because it is new on the iBook this year. So even if you had, we have a different text, so if you're in AP1 last year, what we're using for AP2 this year is a new text. So the text is a Pearson eText, and you're going to need the Pearson app to access it. The author is, the main author is Eugenia Etkina, so you'll hear me refer to it as Etkina sometimes, just by her last name. Its title is College Physics. So you need, down in my dock here on the far right, I've got the Pearson eText app. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And the first time you do this, you're going to have to sign in. And you're going to use the username and the password that you created with your Pearson account with Mastering Physics to access your eText. It's the same username and password for both packages. Okay. So I've got all access to all these different books. I don't know why, but I do. The only one I use is the College Physics there, over there on the middle, on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and the book will pop up. Mine is actually downloaded on my iPad. You can download yours on your iPad so that you can still use it and access it even though you are not connected to a Wi-Fi network on your iPad. So I'd recommend that you do that. So this is the first page right here, and you can navigate pages just by swiping to the side, left and right, or you can use, there's a little arrow icon that, you know, is a nice smooth transition from one page to another, so whatever you prefer to do. It's quicker just to use your hand. Every time you touch the page with your finger or your stylus, the toolbar comes down for 3 or 4 seconds, and then if you don't use it, it just pops back up again. I'm going to explain what all these tools are. The first one over there on the far left is just going back to the bookshelf. So if I clicked on that one, it would take me back to the page where I had all the different titles. Very rarely will you use that unless you have different Pearson titles for different classes. The second icon there is your content manager. So when you click on that, it actually gives you the option to go online, or, because I'm offline right now with my eText, or go to the table of contents, look at your index in the back of the book, or it's like a quick link to the index in the back of the book, or you can look up all your bookmarks that you have saved, and then any notes that you might have. So we'll come back and look at those bottom 2 options in a little bit. Right now I'm just going to click on the table of contents, and you see you've got all the different chapters listed here with a little blue eye next to them. With a little blue eye, breaks down each chapter into the different subsections of the chapter. So in chapter, actually the initial chapter before chapter 1, you've got all these different subsections about what is physics. If you're in the AP1 class, this was the content you should have read over the summertime. Hopefully you did that. Let me choose Newtonian mechanics. That's the chapter 2, and there's a bunch of different subtexts under chapter 2. I'm going to choose Newton's second law, which is 2.6, and it will take me right to the page where Newton's second law section starts, down towards the bottom there. I'm holding my iPad in the landscape format. You can also use it in portrait mode. If I flip it to portrait like this, I get a whole page on one view. If I have it in landscape mode, I get a portion of the page, covers the whole width of the screen, so it's not quite as much along the length, but it's easier to read this way. Notice when I touch the screen and the toolbar comes down, I have a choice to toggle between having one page in the landscape view or 2. So if I chose the 2 option, then you should see both facing pages all on one screen. It's kind of like having the book open in front of you. That might be useful to you for quick navigation, but I wouldn't try and read the text when it's that small. It's up to you. Moving across here on the toolbar up at the top, you see a little bookmark tab or a little bookmark icon there. Let me go back to the one-page view. So let's say I wanted to bookmark page 55. I'm on page 55. And I wanted to bookmark that. I can go ahead and do that, and you'll see the little bookmark symbol shows up there. And then if I navigate to another page, say I swipe a few pages over and I want to check something out somewhere else in the chapter, and I want to go back to the page I was on a second ago, it's pretty easy to do with the bookmark option. So I just go back to the content manager, right here with that icon. I have to go back one level in the menu, actually 2 levels in the menu. And then you see the bookmarks right there. I choose bookmarks, and I've got a couple of them actually. I'm not sure which one I just bookmarked. I think it was 55. So I go back to 55, and I've got that bookmark right there. You can unbookmark it just by hitting that bookmark icon again, and it takes a bookmark away. So it allows you to easily navigate away from a page and quickly come back to it. Okay, just like you would in a textbook, when you don't have to leave your hand there or put an index card or whatever to save your place. That little icon right there is your note manager. So I can create notes and highlights in the text in the Pearson app. Not a little bit different than the iBook if you have an iBook for another class, but it's still pretty useful. It's not quite as precise. You can only highlight in the shape of a rectangle. You can't highlight a specific sentence. So for instance, when I hold the stylus down on a word on the page, it automatically will bring up this little this note right here, new highlight or new note. I'm going to choose highlight, and so you can see a rectangular shape shows up, and I can move the upper left one as far over as I want and the bottom right one, but I can only do it in the shape of a rectangle. So let's say I want to highlight this passage right here. I can highlight it as shown, and then I can also add, if I tap on it again, a new note. So I can have a note associated with that highlight. Relative motion, is the topic here. Relative motion is, and then I can put, my definition of relative motion. And once you've created the note, you can share it with a study group. You can actually create a study group within the Pearson app. So you can have different kids in the same class that all have the same study group, and you can share a note with that study group so that you can, different guys can highlight what they think is important, or you can keep it just to yourself. I'm going to save it, and that thumbtack there shows me that I've got a note associated with that highlighted piece. So when you navigate away and you hit the toolbar, if I select the thumbtack there, it's the Notes Manager. And so I can actually look up notes many different ways. I can search for a keyword, or I can look in a chapter or a section. I'm in chapter 2, so it'll show my note that I just created. Newtonian mechanics on page 55. Relative motion is, and I didn't finish the definition of that, but I had another one here on page 57. So we'll show all your notes for chapter 2 all in one place, which is pretty useful. Okay. You can search by a range of pages or whatever recent notes you did, or you can search by notes with your study group. So if you have 3 or 4 people sharing notes for a chapter, you can search all the notes that not just you, but the other guys in your study group have created. So that's kind of cool too, that you can get other people's, if you miss something, someone else in your study group might have caught something that is they think is important. The little eyeglasses there, which is the next icon over on the toolbar at the top, you can turn on or turn off those 3 different things. You can turn on or turn off the links. A link is these little orange boxes here are hyperlinks for whatever is highlighted. So equation 2.1 and equation 2.2 are referred to in the text here. Well, equation 2.2 is on this page, so if I click on that hyperlink, it's not going to do anything. But equation 2.1 is probably on the previous page. So if I clicked on that hyperlink right there, it's going to take me back to the page that has equation 2.1 on it right here, which was the previous page. So you can turn those links on or off with the eyeglasses right there, and you can just click on that link and notice how all the orange links go away when I do that. Turn on or off the notes, turn on or off the highlights. You can download sections of the book with that downward arrow right there. So if I choose that downward arrow, right now I'm offline, so I could go online when I'm connected to Wi-Fi, and I could actually download a chapter, or I could download the whole book if I click on all chapters. So you should be able to do that. I'm not 100% sure that you can, but I think you guys should be able to do that since you have a 1-year subscription to the text. That's really useful if you want to read when you're not on Wi-Fi or do some studying when you're not on Wi-Fi. You got the search function with the magnifying glass. The settings there, or the utilities, is actually, for me, it shows me the classes that I have registered here with this version of the textbook. So I've got two sections of AP1 and one section of AP2, and then I've got a test class I've been playing around with. So I'm not sure what that's going to show for you guys when you select that, so I hesitate to be real specific on that for you. And then the questions takes you to the online user's manual or whatever, so you can kind of search for the question that you have for the Pearson app. Over here, we already used that one just to change the view to a 2-page view when you're in landscape mode. Or this little icon right here goes back. That's like jump back, navigate to the last page that I was on. So that's kind of useful if you've been jumping to the back of the book to check an odd number answer or whatever, and you want to get back to the page you're on in the text. That's a really quick way to do that, to jump back and forth. So it's actually a lot easier than a hard copy, text. If you're trying to look up answers in the back to see if the problem you just did is right, you always have to flip back and find that page. Super easy to do. And the odd answers are in the back of the book here. If I go to the table of contents and I scroll all the way down, the appendices, one of the appendices, if I click on that blue circle, are answers to the odd number problems, just like you would have in your hard copy text. There's also some really good things that you're going to want to look up, especially working with vectors. There's not a specific unit in this textbook that talks about vectors. So as we go through vectors in class, if you're struggling a little bit, you can always go to this appendix, I should say, working with vectors. And it will help you with some of the semantics and some of the mechanics of how to work with vectors. So make use of all the resources that are in this eText, because it is a really useful thing. I don't know if you guys have the active learning guide for college physics. I tend to think you're not going to have that. That's a separate workbook, a separate resource that they sell separately. So I think I just have access to that because I'm the teacher. But we will be using problems from the active learning guide over the course of the year. So if you do have it, that would be fantastic. That's pretty much it. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. I will just mention the bookmarks. All the bookmarks you have are shown in this content manager here, and all the notes that you have would also be shown here. So you could see all the notes that you have across all sections and all chapters in that little notes icon. If you have any questions, obviously over here on the far right too, you've got a place where you can jump to a specific page. So anytime you want, you can just type in a page number 435 and it'll jump right to page 435. So that's a quick way to navigate if you know the page you want to get to. If you have any questions about the eText, oh, you know what? I haven't shown you some of the features here either. Some important features of this eText are, as you go through here, you're going to see some videos. So let me jump to where I know there's some videos. Newtonian mechanics. I think we have some here. So I'm on page 56 right now in the Newtonian mechanics chapter. Whenever you see that icon right there with the 2D barcode, which would be useful if you had a hard copy text, if you touch that, that's a hyperlink to a video demonstration of something. Okay, it's usually a YouTube video of something, and it'll show you content that goes along with the showing you some actually an exact similar lab that we're going to do in class with the same equipment. So it shows you a little video there that goes along with this experiment table right here. So it's kind of describing the experiment in the table in the eText, and then when you click on that hyperlink to the video, it shows you actually conducting the experiment. So that's a pretty cool way to do it, because if you have a hard time picturing what's being shown in this two-dimensional eText, you can always click on that link and it shows you some very interesting, easy to understand video of what's going on. There's some other features to the multimedia features to this eText that you'll discover as you go through it, but I want to just point out that particular one because there's a lot of videos attached to those observational and testing experiment boxes in your textbook. If you have any questions, again, see me before or after class and we'll walk through it. I really want you to use this eText to help you understand the material that I go over in class. You can either, most times I'll assign reading assignments before I lecture on it, so you kind of have some idea what is coming when I'm talking, or before we do an experiment in class, and I think you'll find that really useful. And I will give you reading quizzes over the course of the year as well to kind of check that you're doing the reading. So be sure that you're keeping up with that. Okay? I'll see you in class.